Hi everyone. So let's look at today's topic. This is a position I've seen online on a couple of portals, online chess platforms, but wanted to take a look at this one in depth. Now, this basically from now on we'll be looking at the active king positions, right? So, what is the importance of active king in the endgame? Position looks quite simple. Uh, should be winning for white from the ideal scenarios. Uh, White king is closer to the black pawn, and obviously black king is a little bit far away. 2 to 3 different things or points we should remember while calculating the variations and trying to approach this. This is holdable if white messes up even 1 or 2 moves. Black can hold this because of 2 to 3 ideas. So let's analyze this and break it down in fundamental themes. Of course, white can approach the black pawn first, but what are black's options? Black can, instead of trying to approach his own pawn, which will not be possible, he might try to go and gobble up this pawn. So this is first issue. So we need to make sure while we try to approach this pawn, we are somehow defending this one. To the ideal scenario that comes in mind is we push a pawn and then we start moving towards this pawn. We try to capture it and then move one space ahead to defend our pawn. So that is first scenario. What might happen in this one? Let's see. So it's white to move. If we go g4, it's directly a draw. Why? Let's see. King b6, the most natural moves that anyone will think of. Yeah, we lose the race. Black is able to capture the g pawn. Why? Because even though this is closer to black, white king, this pawn is little bit closer to the black king, and it's a equal race at this point. So g4 definitely loses. Same goes for g3. We try to reach here, black will be able to reach to the white pawn. So one thing is clear from this very analysis, that we can't just simply go towards the black pawn and try to capture it. We need to make sure that these key squares are out of reach from the black king. We need to push the black king to the extent where he is completely away from his own pawn. Also, we would be able to come to rescue of our own pawn. Makes sense, simple enough. So the move that second that will come in our mind is the c7, king c7. If he goes a, then of course then g4 works, and now we'll be able to reach to this pawn and defend. But why would anyone go a8 in the right man, right? So this could happen, right? What happens if we go king a5? Then again g4 works. Why? Because of this, white king is able to keep black's king out of the reach of this h8 square. Now if black king tries to come in, we can take this pawn and we are able to secure this file. Basically, shuffling back and trying to reach this pawn is not the correct idea for black. Black's king still need, what he needs to try is, if we try approaching this pawn, he should try approaching our pawn. But in this particular scenario, g4 is available, and if even if the pawn is pushed, then we can capture. So first key idea is, we need to approach this pawn while keeping black king away, and try to minimize the distance between these two pawns, so that when we capture the h6 pawn, we will be able to come and defend the white pawn. Third point is, if we are able to capture this pawn successfully, The last resort that the black king has is try to go in and hide in the h8 square. The most logical thing, right? We try to push our pawn, but he is already present on the last rank. So even with one pawn, it advantage it would be a draw in a king pawn versus king endgame. We know the position where if black has the position, then white king can never come in front of the pawn and try to win, right? So what is the possible solution here? Of course, we drive the king towards the edge. We already saw that the shuffling back won't be useful. We can just proceed ahead with our pawn. In this scenario, black king can try to go a1. Why? Because he'll try to reach to the white pawn this way, while we try to gobble up the black pawn. So that is first. Second is a3, obviously. Uh, yeah, two moves, only two candidate moves. So let's see at a1 first. Then g4 works. We have minimized the distance between the pawns. And now we can just simply approach. Yeah, we were able to keep black king so far away from his own pawn that g4 was easy. What happens if king goes a3? Now here's a tricky part where we need to go g3. Now g3 looks quite weird, right? So far we tried whenever king goes back up or shuffles backward, we go g4. But in this particular situation, this is wrong. Why? Because of the third idea that we saw, the black king will try to go towards the h8 square and try to hide it. Either he'll try to block white king, or he'll hide it there itself. So what's the idea? So far so good. Now what happens? Black is able to sacrifice the pawn, and there's only one move. If you move ahead, pawn will get captured, so you have to capture. Now this pawn is on the last rank, uh, last file, and now even though white king was able to reach and stop black's king from reaching h8, he's trapped. All the key squares are occupied, white is in Zugwa, and this will be a stalemate no matter what. Why? Black king is now going to get away from the f6 and the f8 square. So what exactly happened when we went g3? We stomped on the last idea of black, that he'll sacrifice the h pawn and try to march his kings toward the h8. So when h3, king can try, this time he will be able to reach. Yeah, this time he might be able to reach h8 square, but the difference is now you have tempos, right? So white can come up, and in this place we know we need to get the opposition, and whichever side king goes will be able to march our pawn up. So 2 to 3 concepts we basically utilized. First was, even if we want to let the black king reach until the last rank, we need to make sure we have couple of tempes in our pocket to get the position. Second thing, if we directly try to approach the black pawn, then black king can try to approach your pawn and kill it. Yeah. And third thing is, we need to minimize the distance between the pawns, so that if you capture this one, you are able to defend your own pawn. Yeah, I think that was it. If there's any other variation in this one, let's think of that as well. Yeah, what happens if we if in this position he goes h5, right? It still doesn't work because we are able to get the tempes. Yeah. Basically, getting your king in front of the pawn is essential. Uh, Pushing your opponent's king all the way here lets you make sure that he when he'll reach the h8 square or get in front of white pawn, uh, a white king will also be in front of his own pawn. I think this particular scenario takes into consideration two or three different ideas in endgame. The most basic king pawn endgame, right? Uh, where everyone learns that get a position and uh, then you'll be able to promote, right? Uh, Second is the idea of that initially we might miss, which is of the with instinct, like any lower elo player usually tries directly to approach this pawn and win it, but that's not the case. This idea of opponent's king might be able to reach your pawn and gobble it exists, and yeah, sacrificing the pawn at the very end is the most unimaginable idea, I think, in this line. Yeah, so in general we can utilize these concepts in a king pawn ending where we need this is a very specific scenario though, where your opponent's king is completely out of game and you are able to keep him out of game. I doubt this particular scenario will come up in a game very often, but the ideas that we have discussed in this one, that while approaching opponent's pawns, make sure your own pawns are also defended. Uh, while approaching the opponent's pawn or getting to the very last pawn, make sure whether black can sacrifice his pawns or get in front of your pawn or hide on the h8 or a8 squares. Yeah, I think that covers this particular scenario and highlights king's activity in endgame.